if I focus my energy on positive things, and if I really believe that I kind of already have something, then my mind and the rest of the universe is actually going to work to make that happen for me.
Welcome to Real Talk with Gary. If you are listening to this show, that means you are either searching or ready to make a financial change in your life. This show is not only about real estate investing, but also the importance of mindset and the roadmap to a better, healthier life. Learn the daily routines of successful entrepreneurs and the latest market strategies and trends to stay ahead of the curve. Ready for some down-to-earth, north of the border Canadian talk? Here's your host, Gary Hibbert.
All right, welcome back to the show. And today I've got Adelaide and her grandmother, Renate. And listen, this is a great show for anybody who is brand new to real estate investing, thinking about getting in. And it doesn't matter whether you are 17, 18 years old, or if you're older and maybe in your 50s or 60s. And, this is a story about how somebody worked with Smart Home Choice Adelaide and being our admin and just being very inquisitive and learning how real estate investing works. And I always remember her coming to my office and like, Gary, I want to know, can I actually buy an investment property at the age that I'm at, being 18? I don't have the credit. I don't have the money, the down payment. And I'm like, absolutely, you can do it. And within about 2 years or so, maybe a year and a half, she bought her investment property, and she did it with her grandmother and understood how joint ventures worked. And that's what we're going to be diving into on this call, how she did it, what allowed her to do it, the books that she read started from the age of 12, how it influenced her life. We also talk about the actual property that she bought and the issues that she had with it and how they had to overcome it, and screening tenants and some of the problems that they had there as well too, and maintenance issues and where they purchased the property. And so it was very, very eye-opening. And we also got into lots of quotes, lots of really good quotes that I think will really impact you. Honestly, having that conversation with her, I learned from her as well too. And that goes to show you how, if you have the right mindset and you spend time with people that are where you want to be, that it can truly change and influence your life, right? So I think you guys will enjoy this one. But before we dive into it, today's show is brought to you by my good friend, Brian Daly. And buying a home is one of the biggest investments you will ever make, and it shouldn't be left to chance. It really shouldn't. Trust AGHI Inspections to do a home inspection that will give you peace of mind. And I think that's super important. They have been inspecting residential homes in the GTA and surrounding area for over 15 years. And Brian is a trained professional that provides the education, knowledge, and expertise that you need to make a decision on one of the biggest purchases of your life. For the best home inspection services by inspectors that perform beyond your expectations, contact AGHI. Don't trust your home inspection to anyone other than the professionals. And Brian's contact information will be in the show notes below. And one last thing, if you're new to the podcast, thank you very much for tuning in. You can visit garyhibbert.ca to learn more about me. And if you want to learn more about the events that we're doing on a weekly basis, go to smarthomechoice.ca. And with that, I will talk to you guys next week. Take care and enjoy today's show. Okay, Adelaide and Renate, we are live. Welcome to the studio. How you guys doing? Good.
Hi,
we have been planning to do this for a long time. It's finally happening. A couple things obviously got into the way, COVID and this new world that we live in. But you know what? We're here. And I want to share your story because you guys have an incredible story, especially this young, beautiful lady, Adelaide. And you've been such a great help to our business, to Smart Home Choice, everything that we've been doing over the last couple of years. When did you start?
I started
March 2019,
in March 2019.
But what year was that again? It was 2019. Okay, what am I saying? What year? Yeah, you told me the year.
Yeah.
March 19th. I'm like, what year? Okay, so March 2019. So you were with us just over 2 years. Yes.
Just over 2 years. And it's crazy how much I've learned. And the same way that you feel I've contributed to your business, like I honestly would have never known about real estate investing.
I'm glad that
if it
you
wasn't for
were
you
a
and
part of the
Darlene.
team. You really kind of helped implement and put in a lot of strategies and ideas and helped me with the social media. And there were so many things that you did that I thought was very, very helpful and allowed us to grow. So we miss you because you've moved on now to other adventures. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, how's that going?
Other things?
Tell us a little bit about that. Like, how's that going?
That's going really well, actually. So one of those things is
You got your real estate license,
as you know.
Right.
Yes, I got my real estate license, so finally have that. But I found it a little bit more challenging than I initially thought to just jump right into it because I still have bills to pay. So I kind of thought that as well. When it comes to growing my real estate portfolio, I'm at a point now where it's like, okay, I want to also grow it and start real estate investing, but also with my own primary home. So that's kind of the next thing I'm chasing. And to be able to do that, I was like, you know what? A bank probably won't like real estate agents on my mortgage application. So I figured, why don't I get like that corporate experience, which I've never had in my life too, aside from working with you and Darlene, but
right.
Like,
And I
that
mean,
was
look,
like
we're a
family,
smaller
you know
business
what I
as well too.
mean?
And I think I also talked to you about it and encourage you to say, look, you know what? It's good to work for a larger corporation to see their systems and their processes and how they do it at a larger scale, right? Because you could always move back into the entrepreneurial world if you decide to.
Of course. And, even like Matthew Frederick, he's my other mentor aside from you. And I think he had a similar story as well. Like both of you did. You both started off in the corporate world and kind of moved on to entrepreneurship. So considering those things, as well as my grandmother, Renate, same thing with her. Before she became an entrepreneur, she had that desk job. So I figured, you know what, maybe there is some importance in this and understanding how that works. I just figured, how can I be an excellent boss one day if I don't understand my employees?
So let's rewind. Let's kind of start, I guess, maybe from the beginning. What even kind of got you down the path of real estate investing? Because I believe there was a couple books that you read early on in your life that impacted you, right? And when did you pick those books up? Like what age were you? When did you pick those books up? Like what age were you?
So the amazing thing about that is I got introduced to The Secret by Selena, your sister, and she presented the book to me one day, and she said, this is an interesting book, why don't you read it? I had no idea what this book was about, The Secret, but I loved reading, and so I was really impressed that she wanted to share that with me. So I took the opportunity. I flipped through a couple pages, and I had no idea what any of the words meant, but I was like, whatever, I'm going to find this book, and I'm going to buy it. So I'm at Walmart, and I tell my mom, hey, I need this book. And she doesn't question it. She's like, okay, put it in the cart. Let's go. So I grabbed the book, and I remember being at home in my bed trying to read it. And I think I tried to read it 3 times before I finally understood, because I was 12 when I first picked it up. So the more that I would read it, though, the more I would try to understand. It was just a different concept to wrap my mind around, though. Like, wow, so if I focus my energy on positive things, and if I really believe that I kind of already have something, then my mind and the rest of the universe is actually going to work to make that happen for me. I was like, that's crazy. That's God, right? So, from that, I made it my mission to always have a positive mindset, and I also made kind of connections with my own personal life, like I saw certain people around me who would complain about things in their life, and then that's all they would get. And I saw other people who were happy and they were successful, and I just never understood what made the difference. Because me growing up, my parents didn't have a lot of money. My mom was a single mom. My dad was still there for me, but they just weren't together. And they both were, like, my dad was an immigrant as well, so they were both trying to work their way up through things as well. So I never understood what's the difference between someone who doesn't have a lot of money and someone who does, and also what makes someone happy and doesn't.
At an early age that mindset wasn't a key ingredient, because a lot of people don't figure that out until later on in life. And you also brought up something I think that was important as well too, is recognizing and seeing that why is it that some people that continually complain keep on getting dealt a bad hand, and it's because they're drawing that energy to them. And so you picked up on that, right? Which is I think sharp and amazing at that young age. And then what about you, Renate? Like, did you read that book as well too, or were there any books that kind of
Oh, I've read that.
Oh, really?
I've read all the books.
Oh, so you actually passed them on to your grandmother.
I passed them on to her.
She goes,
right.
oh my,
and you know what? That was, so I didn't actually read the book. I actually watched the video. So my brother had brought that video over to me. I think it was maybe around 2006 or 2007, somewhere around there. And the same thing for me as well too. Was like, hold on a second, I can manifest this. Like it just felt make believe at first, because it was hard to wrap my head around it. I was like, hold on, what do you mean? I can just think about it. Now I think there are some key ingredients that were missing as well too in it, but I think it's a good start, because I think they missed out, at least watching the video, the action part of it, like taking action.
No, it's true. That's the only thing that was kind of missing, and that's where the second book that really changed my mindset comes in, and that's Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And that's where that came in, because that kind of answered my second question, like, what's the difference between wealthy people and people who are poor? I was like, I don't want to be poor for the rest of my life. Like, I don't like this.
That book introduced to you at?
I would say it was around the same time. Yep, around the same time, and I believe it was my uncle who introduced that to me. I don't remember, but I had that book, and again, same thing with that one. Being so young, I didn't fully understand it in the beginning, but I understood certain concepts, like, okay, there's two different mindsets here. And I was like, okay, wealthy people, they invest their money into assets, right? The middle class, they invest their money in liabilities that they think are assets. And then the poor people, they
and that is a really important distinction as well too, is where they invest their money in assets that they think are assets and they're not. And I remember when my accountant would come, or not accountant, but the financial advisor would come over, and she'd say, okay, well, write down your assets. And I would write down a car. And so you believe that a car is an asset. However, it's not. It's depreciating, but the concept, and this is why I think it's so important that they put financial education into these schools, and they don't. Like, it's almost like as if they've taken them out. Now, did they bring it back in? No, I thought they did when you were in school, or no?
Not really. I think we had like an accounting class, but that's probably as close as we would get to that. And I think that was also the other thing that really confused me, is how come we don't learn this in school, And I remember being a young kid thinking, like, I would see my mom paying the bills, and I'm like, one day I'm going to have to pay bills, but how do I pay bills? Like, I don't understand how this works. So I would ask her, I'd be like, Mom, how do you pay the bills? And she'd look at me like, what? Just because I would always be stressing, like, I'm going to have to know this one day. But
all right, so let's fast forward a little bit now. So we hire you. How did that happen? Because I think one of our admins had left. Did we approach you? Did you? I can't remember how that went down.
Yes.
Okay, did I? Okay, I can't remember. Man. Sometimes my life is blurred.
I think it was one day, like playing with CR or something, as I would always be at your house anyway. So her and I were hanging out, and I think you both came and were like, hey, you know what? We had an admin who left us.
Right.
So
and it was like a bit of a trial run at first. And then you and CR were actually sitting down together, working. We were giving you, in the beginning, just a little bit of work. And then we started piling on more. And I remember, me and Darlene talking, like, these guys are, we can hear you guys talking and laughing and giggling. And I'm like, what is going on over there? Like, I thought I gave these guys so much stuff to do. And then we would come out and, like, your work was done. It was crazy. Like, you guys were, and it was amazing, because what we also realized, because then Darlene actually started investigating it in real, cause you're no, you're not millennial. You're what group are you guys in? not millennials, but you are Generation
What do you
X, Gen Z.
Oh,
and Gen Z,
Gen
they are
Z.
good at multitasking.
Yeah.
And so you guys were laughing, talking,
It's
multitasking
crazy.
on your cell phones, on the computer. Renate, it was incredible to watch how they were working and functioning. And afterwards, I looked at Darren, I'm like, you know what? We have to hire her. And so then we brought you on, and then from there, I remember that you're like, you really got interested in real estate investing, even though I think you were obviously before. But then you would come into my office and you're like, Gary, I want to learn more about real estate investing, and is it possible that I can actually invest in real estate, right? Okay, so let's talk about that and how what were some of the things that you took away from some of the conversations that we were having?
Well, to first start off, I think let's talk about where the interest came from. And I think the interest honestly came from seeing what real estate investing was doing for you in your life, because I was so close to Ciara and always around the family. I saw what it was doing for you guys, and which was just like, I was like, wow, like this is so cool. Like, it's going on vacation. I'm like, I want to go on
I
vacation.
think we had actually taken you on vacation once. Was it Florida?
You did take me.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was Florida. And it was just such an eye-opener, because I thought, you know what? I want to be able to do this for someone one day, the same way that you guys were so welcoming and showing me like how real estate investing affected your life and how it changed it in such a positive way. But I also saw all the work that went into it, like being so close to Ciara. I remember her being like, oh, my dad's recording, my dad's working, like, we can't talk, right? Having to be quiet. And but it just really interested me, because I was just amazed, like, wow, real estate can do all this, so I just remember once you started teaching me about what you do, I was just so curious to know more about it. And okay, I know it does this, but how? And how do you start? I think that's something that always interests me about seeing successful people. Right. It's not where they are.
And
it's
so
how
then,
did you start?
you came into my office and I said, look, you know what? When you're done your shifts, you can spend as much time as you want with me. No. I said, we'll do half an hour. And we can, it was like, you can come in, because
Is that how it started?
Unlimited amount of time. But I'll give you half hour of my time, because my days were long as well too. Then,
oh yes, Ciara and I would go.
And I said, but I will give you and teach you everything that I know and that I've learned over the years. And so then we used to do those whiteboard sessions, and teach you that you actually didn't have to have do you remember? There you go, the money, right?
The money. And I'll never forget that that day when I was sitting on the couch in your office with Ciara beside me, and you were explaining money people deal. And for me, you just draw a triangle on the board, and I'm like, what's a triangle gonna do to help me? But you're like, hey, listen, there's 3 parts of every deal. There is the people, there's the money involved, and then there's the actual deal itself. And so I remember you explained, like, if you have 2 parts of that deal, then, like, for example, if you have the deal itself and you bring the people, then the other person, they're only bringing 1 part of it. So you can do like 50-50. And I didn't believe you at first. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, so if I go to someone and say, okay, I have some people here, I have a deal, I need $50,000, they're gonna give it to me? And you're like, yeah, I've done it before. And I was like,
it does work. Okay, so then now let's bring in Renate. So then you obviously now take what I taught you, and you go then and have a conversation with Renate. And what was that like when she came to you? Okay.
Exciting.
Right.
Exciting. It's like, whoa. This is my granddaughter coming and talking to me finances and, real estate.
And then did she do like a
good
whiteboard session for you? Or was it just more of an explanation of, here is the concept and here's what I want to do together with you? Okay.
We do the whiteboard.
Right.
We do the whiteboard, of course.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was...
Can't lose the vision, right?
Yeah, so what had happened is I approached her, and like we've always had a very, very close relationship. Every summer I would go visit my grandparents and stay there for the whole 2 months that school was off. Yeah, so in that time I would always, get to learn about the farm. They owned a farm. and the animals, and that's another side of business and entrepreneurship that I was introduced to as well. She also owned her own pizza shop. So it was amazing. I would help in the pizza shop and see customers coming in, and I just loved that whole experience, right? So she was very familiar with that stuff, and for me, she was my another mentor in that way. So I approached her and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna listen. I was talking to Gary, like, and this is what he said. So, like, will you do it with me? So I have, like, what if we get the deal, and then, I can put the work in, I'll find the people, and I'll take care of these things. And I just need the money portion, but we go 50-50.
And when you say 50-50, like 50-50
what happened
in
from
regards to ownership and proceeds from cash flow. Okay, yeah, just to make sure that's clear. Okay, but so your grandmother put the money in and qualified for the mortgage, and then now how did you guys find this deal and where was it?
You want to talk about that, Oma?
And Oma is grandmother in, is that Czech? In German? Okay, in German. Okay.
German. Yes.
That's my Oma.
What we did was I was looking around and I seen in the newspaper a clipping, and I called the real estate agent and said, hey, I want to find out more about it. It's a duplex. It's investment for us. And went down to see it. And we liked it. It was in very good condition. The price
Pembroke,
was right.
Okay.
Pembroke.
Pembroke, Ontario. And just going into that a little bit, like we had been searching for a little bit. The COVID pandemic hit. So they weren't even doing too many showings like that at first.
That was what,
so
early
we were kind of like, okay, we want to get this
2020,
property.
like, was that April? March? Okay, so that was like in the...
March 2020, yeah. That's when we got the property.
That was our closing.
Our closing. So
22.
a little bit before, but we had heard of
it was kind of like on that side of the world. It's kind of maybe coming. We're not too sure.
Coming. People are kind of like eerie about it. So we're looking for these properties and we're like, okay, what's going to happen? How are we going to get a property?
Right.
And then, as she said, she found the property. So we were really happy about that. And I started doing some research on Pembroke because that was my thing. I'm like, okay, we can't just invest somewhere. Like,
and I think what also helped you as well was coming to those smart home choice events and listening to a lot of the experts and the guest speakers that we would have. And the one theme that, well, not saying one theme, but some of the things that they teach was fundamentals. Where are you investing? What's the tenant profile like? And so you started doing that homework, correct?
Yes, for sure. So I started doing that homework, and actually a funny story. We did attend our neighborhood realty event.
Right, that was a great event.
Les Brown, the fall impact event. Yes, but funny thing is, at first I wasn't like interested in going. I didn't know who Les Brown was, but I did listen to his motivational speeches. I just didn't know that it was him. So it was actually my grandma who was like, hey, there's this event. Why don't we go? And I was like, okay, you know what? Fine, let's go. Why not? Okay. Right? But I was a little reluctant at first. And it was at that event where we got to hear Les Brown, and we got to just be in a room of realtors, investors, and hear people share their stories. And that was another thing that really just opened up my eyes, because she had been going to all the smart home choice events, and it was just like, there's another event. Like, Gary's doing another event. Like, let's go. So that was amazing. And that's actually where I did
Matthew Frederick.
Because Darlene was like, hey, like,
Matthew Frederick.
Yes, Matthew. She's like, hey, like, he's a really good investor. This is someone good to know. And that's kind of how I met up with him as well, and kind of.
What was amazing is, 'cause I remember Matthew calling me up as well too, and like you would not take no for an answer, and she's like, Gary, this girl is persistent. No. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And then he brought you on. He actually took you under his wings.
He did. Yeah, I told him, I was like, do you need, someone to work for you? I was like, I can do like even 1 day a week. And that's exactly how we started. He's like, I don't really need anyone, but like he didn't really have an option to say no. So
yeah. And that is
okay,
such,
1 day a week,
I think, a powerful message for people that are listening to, you don't have to take no for an answer. and be persistent, because people that are entrepreneurs, they see that and they look at that as a strong trait. And so he brought you in under his wings, and then now you are going out into the field with him, boots on the ground,
into the
and
field with him.
Talk to us about that.
Yes. Talk to us about that. Yes, it was amazing talking to so many landlords and just learning about what he does and getting that like door knocking experience, which was really took me out of my comfort zone. So that was amazing. But going back to what you said though about the yes and no, I think that's a really good point, because a lot of people hear yes and they think, okay, it's good to hear yes, and then they hear no and they're like, oh my God, no, nobody wants to hear no. But I think for anyone who really wants something and like a good negotiator, no is like the perfect answer, because you're like, no, okay, no, we can work with this.
But I think also though, right, that what helped you was, I think, mindset. Right? Because if you don't have the right mindset, it could really put you in a place where you're like, oh, well, I got rejected. Where now you looked at it and said, well, hold on a second, maybe I could rephrase it in a different way and come at it at a different angle.
No, I think you're right about that for sure. And I give my mom credits for that, because I remember even in school, there were some times I would get bullied and I'd be like, Mom, I don't want to go to school. And she would look at me and say, you know what? Like, that's not how the world is though. Like, you have to go out in the world and you can't be afraid. You have to face people and you have to, take responsibility for your own feelings. You don't have to take responsibility for theirs. And so with that, she kind of instilled in my head that like, you have to just go for it no matter what it is. If something makes you uncomfortable, like, it's best to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's one thing she really, really taught me. Anytime I didn't want to do something, she'd look at me and say, you're not going to do it?
Right. No, like, that's good. That's okay, good. So did your mother have a huge influence on your life as well too, including the books that you read? Yeah. Okay.
Of course. She really did. Because my mom had me when she was 20. So she was a young mom, and I always saw how she did things. And it was really interesting to me because I think that's where I get my persistence from. She's incredibly persistent in anything that my mom wants. Like, she finds,
so that's where you get it from.
Yeah. She gets it.
And that's where
I get it from.
Right.
It's a family
and I guess that's why you're like, Carrie, no, these are the hours that I want, and this is the pay that I'm looking for. And but you know what? It's good. I mean, you negotiated.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So now you go boots on the ground, hanging out with Matthew. Did he help to kind of push you forward with that property in Pembroke, or was that afterwards? I don't recall where that was.
No, that was before. Because he actually came with us and drove all the way out there.
We already bought it at that point.
No, we didn't. Matthew came to look at the property with us. And he kind of did like that inspection and being like, okay, this is a good property.
Okay, so he actually drove out there and
this
took a look at it.
Makes sense. This is good.
Wow.
He drove out there with us to take a look at this property, because I was like, listen, I'm like, my grandmother said she'll get a property with me, but we need to make sure it's the right property. Like, can you take a look at these numbers? Can you take a look at the property and see that it's a good deal? And so he came out, he took a look at it. It was really good deal, and now we have like almost $1,000 cash.
So let's talk about that. So
monthly
legal 2-unit, or did you have to legalize it? Okay, what was the price?
Legal.
Turnkey, basically.
That is so crazy.
45. And the bank valued it at higher.
And how long was it sitting on the market? Because there wasn't multiple offers on this, was there? Okay.
No. How long was it? I don't even remember.
Not very long.
So under like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She was. Okay.
So you picked the property up. Were there tenants in the property, or was it vacant?
No. That was the amazing part about it. It was a couple going through a divorce, unfortunately. But the amazing part about it was that it was kind of like an in-law suite. The in-laws were there, and they had moved out. So it was fully vacant, which was probably the best case scenario for us. We got to choose our tenants, and That's where the challenge really started, though, because at that point,
Right.
the pandemic was a thing in Canada, and it was like, how do we find a tenant? And we'd never looked for tenants before. We're like, how do you find a good tenant?
Okay,
Like,
so
how
what
are
do you
we
do now?
supposed to
Do you
know?
put your ads on Kijiji? Is it Facebook? Where are you advertising?
It was Kijiji.
Okay.
We started advertising on Kijiji, and at first we had just a basic ad there. But we kept getting all these people, and like my grandma's messaging me like, I don't know, like there's some crazy people on here.
Okay.
I'm not too sure about this one, you know? So
How did you
I was
know
like,
they were
okay, you
crazy?
know
What
what?
do you
This is
mean?
what we're
Like,
gonna
what
do.
were they
We're gonna make
saying?
it a system. Things that what were they saying to you?
They were just telling me they don't have a job, but they
Okay,
have all
so
this
like,
government money coming in, and they really want to move in,
Right.
and they got like 4 cats, and
Okay,
Yeah.
so
2
you're getting
dogs,
like
and we're
Ontario
no.
Works,
Like a little
and
petting zoo, and we're like-
ODSP. Okay.
Oh,
A
yeah.
lot of that, yeah. And which from other investors I've heard that is
Okay.
the case in Pembroke. There's a lot of that there. But again, in Pembroke, it's really close to Petawawa where they have the army base. And then there's also a lab. So one of our tenants is actually an engineer, I believe. So it's amazing. Like
Right.
you can get amazing tenants there, but it took us a little process. So that's when I came in and I was like, listen, we're gonna add a system for this, and we're gonna have the listing, but we're gonna say if you're serious, send us this information to our email address, answer these few
Good.
questions, and then we'll get back to you. And that weeded out so many people.
Right.
Because they didn't know
so
how
you
to
so you
follow
put
the
the systems
rules.
in place, the
Yeah, or
processes
maybe they're
in
just
place,
applying
and then once you were able to do that, then you started getting better quality leads coming in. So, and I guess I want to
Quality
clarify this as well too. So even though you were getting bombarded, I guess, with the tenant profile that you weren't looking for, you were patient and you waited and got the right tenants. Is that okay?
Yes,
Yes.
our tenants I think moved in
Okay.
July 1st. So we took a few months, but we knew. Oh yeah.
June 1st, signed the lease. And then the
Okay.
other unit was in July.
And what were
Okay.
the
So
rents, if
fully
you don't mind
rented
me
by
asking?
July.
Upstairs, downstairs.
Oh yeah, no problem. You want to explain the rents?
Well, we were originally asking 1,600 for a 3-bedroom upstairs
Okay.
with garage
Okay.
and backyard,
Own driveway.
All inclusive.
own driveway. And
No.
they pay their own
Okay.
hydro. There are separate meters. And we pay partially for water. Yeah. No, we pay
Okay.
the water, but partially for hydro because of the utility room.
Right.
It's for both units. Downstairs,
There's a
$1,100.
$2. Okay.
And that's
so
a
now
two-bedroom.
that they've been there now for well over a year now, year and a bit, are they still there, or did you have any turnover?
No, they're still there, and they're incredible
That's
tenants.
amazing.
Honestly, like
Really, really
no
good.
complaints at all.
Okay, so now
We're blessed.
things
in
are
that
going
way.
well. $1,000 a month cash flow between the time that you fill it to where we are now. I'm sure you've had some headaches. I'm sure you've had some maintenance issues.
Ooh.
Okay, good. So let's talk
We
about that
have,
because
yeah.
especially
It was so
you
much
guys don't
fun.
live in Pembroke. You guys, you're in Pickering?
No.
Ajax? Okay, you're in Ajax. That's right. I know that. Ajax.
Ajax.
And Renata,
Ajax.
you are out. Well, you're kind of closer to Pembroke, but not close either.
I'm about
And
an
how long does it take
hour
for you to
and a
get there,
half
Adelaide?
away from
Yeah.
To Pembroke.
so
Oh,
how-
that's like a 4-hour drive from here.
Okay.
But she
Okay.
doesn't
Okay.
go.
And so
I
then
go.
you guys kind of
That's-
figured this
yeah,
out then at the
exactly,
beginning.
exactly.
Like did you guys determine, okay, you're going to be doing this as part
Yes.
of this joint venture agreement and you're going to be responsible for doing that for the, okay, got it.
Yes.
Correct. So the dynamic that we kind of have is that I deal with kind of all the admin stuff. If something goes wrong, I'm the first point of contact for the tenants.
Okay.
But then she's kind of the action taker. So, we had a really fun call in the middle of winter
Okay.
when our pipe burst, apparently.
Didn't burst. It froze.
Okay.
Well, didn't burst. Right, it froze.
Right.
It froze.
Yeah,
but
which
we were
is
worried about
just around the
burst
corner, right?
happening.
If it's freezing up, you could easily.
Yeah.
We were stressing,
Okay.
and so were our tenants because they had no water. or it was like hot water upstairs and cold water downstairs. It was something so crazy, and I have no experience doing maintenance, so I'm like, oh my god, like, I don't know what this is. So of course, being a small town, we talk about it, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna call some plumbing companies. Let's see if we can get somebody else to go take a look at it first before you even go there. And so we call a few places, and nobody can come.
They want $1,000 without seeing it.
All right. So then what do you do next?
Yeah. So finally, we still don't fully know what the issue is. So she's like, you know what? Let me just go over there and bring your grandfather, and we'll have a look and see what's going on, and then we can go from there. And it was funny because I was still working with you. So I don't know if you remember that day, but it was like a crazy day. I'm trying to like get my work done, and I'm like, I don't know what to do about this tenant stuff. I was freaking out.
I remember you telling me about the story, but I don't remember how it got resolved.
Well, it got resolved because my son, he came along, Adelaide's uncle, and he is our maintenance person. So he does all the maintenance what needs to be done. And he had it figured out in a flash, had the heater on, got it defrosted, put insulation.
So this was a pipe, then it sounds like that was running close to an exterior wall. So this was probably something that maybe that happened
of course,
probably in the past, depending on obviously how cold it got, right?
Oh yeah.
Depending on obviously how cold it got.
Yeah. Right? So what happened is, lucky for us too, the previous owner is such a nice person, and he gave us his contact information. So I don't remember if you did end up contacting him or something, but we ended up finding out, I believe it was from him, that there was a piece of insulation that they would stuff in a vent in the wall to prevent that from happening in winter. And we just never knew about that. But after he told us, we're like, okay, so they thawed the line and then put the insulation in.
So hopefully this winter we won't have any issues. Okay.
No, we know when to go in.
Good. Okay. So you've had success with this property. You know, sounds like you've had some maintenance issues, but nothing that has gotten you to the point where you're like, okay, I want to sell this thing. Okay.
No. But I am dealing. We are dealing with.
We're dealing with the issue right now as we speak.
Well, the lady, the tenant, went to turn on the air condition, and the fan was running. The air condition was running. The fan quit.
Okay.
So the motor quit. So we're trying to get somebody in for, I guess, about 3 weeks now. We're trying to get somebody in because it's under warranty, the furnace. And the people are too busy to come in. So now we have an appointment on the 20th of September.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing I will say, that if anybody plans to invest somewhere, in a small town, you just
go
have
a little bit slower. And I guess also too, you're also building your power team out there. So that's going to take a little bit of time.
Yes.
Exactly. I know some investors will kind of do that beforehand. And for us, we've just kind of like, without having so much experience, it's kind of been a learn as you go. So what's next now then? Are you guys looking to pick up another property and doing it together again? Okay, so you've got a joint venture for a couple more deals potentially? Oh yeah, we're excited.
Nice. Where are you looking, or where are you thinking? Like, would you go back to Pembroke, or would you maybe go into, what's the other one city called? Petawawa?
Petawawa. Petawawa is a little bit more expensive than Pembroke, so I would go there, but I don't know. Pembroke is like that.
Right. So are you actively looking right now?
So that's where we're looking. Yes. We are. We're not ready to necessarily jump in and make any moves yet, but
so now
we're watching.
You also have your real estate license. Have you been practicing that yet, or what's the game plan with that? Because you are an agent here at Our Neighborhood Realty, right?
I am, and it's funny because I always hear agents talking about don't get caught up in the 80% of admin work. Right, focus on the 20%, but I'm guilty. I focus on the admin side of it, and also having my full-time job as well. It's made it a little bit more challenging to just jump right into it. But I'm definitely planning on getting there soon. I'm just right now a little bit more focused on the investing.
So where do you see yourself in,
side
say,
still.
4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
Like, what's kind of the, like your game plan? I know it's a ways out, but like, where would you like to be? And do you have a vision board and a whiteboard where you kind of write down all your goals and what you want to accomplish?
Yes. You actually were the one who introduced me to vision boards, and so I've had it for several years now. But I would say for the next 4 or 5 years, I definitely plan to be an entrepreneur and like still doing my own thing. And just in a place where I'm financially free. That's the main goal. And for me, like
so the freedom to now then be able to do and choose what you want to be able to do with your life. Yeah. And that's a great goal to have. I mean, I know even for me when we were working towards it, and when you are able to get to it, you're like, okay, so what do I really want to do with my life? Because for me now, somebody asked me this early this week, and it's like, so are you buying more property? I was like, I don't have an interest in buying any more properties at this point in time. And it made me realize that I don't really like real estate investing. I've said this a few times before. I don't. What I do enjoy doing, though, is helping other people get their investment properties, whether it's just one or whatever their goals are. That is what I enjoy doing, is helping people at least create some type of a nest egg for themselves, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And sure, it's nice having that little extra, right? That we can do as we please.
Yeah.
Like the cash flow.
Right.
We can save it for the next place, or
exactly.
we can give
you can use it towards
paycheck.
maybe potentially a car payment, vacation, right? It's endless, and that's where I think that whiteboard comes into play, right?
It's endless.
Yeah.
It does. So it's just such an amazing thing to be able to kind of pick and choose. And I do feel blessed to kind of be where I am right now, to have those choices, right? So that's where my goal is, to just continue working toward that, so that I have that choice of, okay, I want to wake up and work today, or, maybe it's time to go on a vacation.
Do you post any of this on social media at all? Like, what you've been able to accomplish with buying an investment property or mindset stuff, or
You know what? It's funny you say that, because I'm such a busy body. I don't post as much as I probably should, but it's something I'm working toward for sure. And I'm really excited to share my journey with other people, especially younger people who maybe were kind of in that same position as me, not knowing,
But you know what? It may not be a complete bad thing. Sometimes being a little bit unplugged from social media isn't bad, because there is life that still happens outside of the internet, outside of social media, outside of Instagram and Facebook. So then with that being said,
it's true.
Your friends, do they see what you're doing, and do you have conversations with them, or are they aware of it, and do they ask questions in regards to how you're able to do that?
Of course. I love to share my story with my friends, and I guess, like you said, that's the thing with not real estate, with social media, is sometimes it's good to kind of just protect your, I don't know what the word is, like, I guess the vibration that you're on and what you're doing. And sometimes I like to usually be quiet until something's done, and then I'll share it. Yeah. So, but with my friends, of course, I love to share what I'm doing. And
what do you think your superpower is?
Well.
You get a superpower, and what is it?
I think my superpower is my determination.
I agree with 100%. You are determined, and once you set your mind to something, you go and get it.
I do. I have to. It's like, I don't know, the way I look at it, we have one life. Why not? And I think the biggest challenge for me has always been to get over fear. I think fear, it's very dangerous, because it can really limit you in your life and things that you accomplish. And for me, I never wanted to be that person who's 90 years old in my hospital bed looking at my grandkids saying, hey, I wish I would have done this. I wish I could have, I should have just gone for it. what would have happened. You know, I never want to have that what if. I'd rather just do something, and if it doesn't work out, at least I can laugh and talk about all the memories I had, you know, going through, and the lessons I've learned going through all these things.
A quote, and I don't remember who said it. Actually, I think it might have been anonymous. But anyways, it was something along the lines of, I want to go through life and slide into my grave with my body all torn and riddled up and saying, whoa, what a ride. You know? Yeah. But I think that's how life should be as well too. Like, you should go through it and not be scared to get some of the scars and the bruises and falling down flat in your face and people looking at you, but being able to get back up and go through the adversities. That is what life, I think, is about. You know, I always say this as well too, and I heard this from Jim Rohn, where, you know, can you run across the football field and spike that football and celebrate if you don't go through the linebackers? No, it's not a celebration. You just ran across the field. You got to go through the linebackers. You got to get tackled. You got to get roughed up and knocked down and bruised, and that's what life is. Because when you're able to then actually cross that finish line, that is the enjoyment of spiking that football. That is where the fun of winning, you know, comes in. But then also too, it's okay to fail and learn from those you know, the failures and life lessons, to say, okay, what went wrong? What can I learn from this, and how can I continue to keep going down that field?
Exactly. And there's one quote that I've always kept with me throughout my life, which is that God gives the hardest battles to his strongest soldiers. And I'm not particularly a religious person, but I just love that quote because it goes along with the fact that whatever's happening to you, you can handle. Right. And it reminds me of that quote you always say, which is that life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And was that Jim Rohn as well? Or who was that? Or maybe it's Les Brown.
It might have been Les Brown.
It's Les Brown.
I think I was interviewing Les Brown and I said that. And then he goes, yeah, that's mine. It was something like that. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah.
My gosh, that is so funny.
Yeah, because that was brought up when we went to that seminar.
Okay. So it's a Les Brown quote. Look at that. And so I think that's just such an important
What scares you?
Quote to remember.
What scares you?
What scares me? I would have to say the thing that scares me is not knowing. And I mean that in a sense, like, not like just, you know, random things that I don't know. That doesn't necessarily scare me. But just in my own life, like not knowing, like that scares me, to not know like my full potential and just being, or I guess not even not knowing, it's being naive. That's more of it. Like being naive to what you don't know, being naive to like what's in front of you, being naive to like all the blessings that you have around you. That's what scares me. I think being naive is something that causes a lot of problems in the world, because I think if people were more mindful, then a lot of the problems
I agree with that, and being able to ask questions and not being scared to ask questions, and realizing and understanding that you can't possibly know it all.
Exactly. And it's not that innocent kind of naiveness. It's more like when people choose to be naive. That's what scares me. And I never want to put myself in that position where I just choose.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I like that.
Choose that.
I love the quotes as well, too. Some good quotes there that we've shared with with everybody as well, too, today. Listen, it was great sitting down and having a conversation with you guys both. For anybody that's listening, you know, is there any piece of advice that you both can kind of share that, you know, they listen to your story? Maybe they're just as young as you, Adelaide, or maybe, you know, they're a bit older, like your grandmother is, and they're thinking about getting into real estate investing, where one is saying, I can't, I'm too young. And maybe on the other hand, somebody's saying, well, I can't, I'm too old. You know, maybe I'll start with you, Renate. Like, what kind of advice would you give somebody?
Well, can't is not in our vocabulary. Okay, so I believe that to give with warm hands, being older, retired. So my thing is to give to my grandchildren. And in this case, it's Adelaide because she is of age. And her lesson will be to teach others what she's learning.
Right.
That
Yeah,
she
help
can
as many
help.
people get what they want, and you can have every and anything you want. Who is that?
Exactly.
Jim Rohn.
I forget.
Is it Jim Rohn or Zig
That's
Ziglar?
Jim
Hold
Rohn.
on. I think that's Jim Rohn. Yeah, I think that's Jim Rohn. Oh, I better have that right. I'll have to go back and fact check that one.
Oh, man.
Anyways, bottom line is that's a great quote. Yeah, and what about you, Adelaide? What?
No, that's amazing.
And what about you?
Mine is that, never stop asking questions. Like, always ask questions. And I think that's honestly what helped me get to where I am, was just being curious. Never stop learning. And, the only limitations that you have are the ones that you agree to. Does that make sense? Like, if someone can say, oh, you can't do that. But if you know in your mind, no, I can't do that, it's not a limitation. But if someone tells you something and you agree with it, or maybe someone's not even saying anything, it's your own limitation that you put in front of you.
Yeah, no, that's
when you have
a
issues.
good quote, and that's great advice as well too. People do put a lot of limitations on themselves, and if you believe you can or you believe you can't, there you go, right? Yeah,
You're right. That's it. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest challenge for anyone to get over. But if you can do that,
I
then
agree. How old are you
there
again?
should
Dad?
be nothing to stop you.
That's incredible. It's incredible listening to your story. It's incredible listening to the quotes and just the sound advice that you have at such a young age. It really is. And I hope people get some valuable insight into your story, in that, anything is possible if you put your mind to it and you spend time with the right people, because if you do, those people can't help but rub off on you. And that's what you've done. You've put yourself with the right people. You surrounded yourself with the right people. You've rubbed shoulders with some of the best in the industry. And I mean, to be able to be mentored by somebody like Matthew Frederick, he's mentored me as well too, is incredible. And I see a very bright future for you.
Oh, thank you. And you know what? There's a lot of people my age who will say, well, how do I know that I'm surrounding myself with the right people? And the best way to say that is, are they where you want to be?
100%.
And that's it.
Adelaide, if anybody wants to get in contact with you and learn more about who you are, and maybe potentially do a joint venture with you if Renata allows them, how can they get a hold of you?
There's so many ways to get a hold of me. I have my website, which is workwithadelaide.com. And I'm sure you'll link that below, right? Okay. And then my Instagram as well, which is Call Me Addie. So either way there, I'm good. Facebook, Adelaide Carriere. I can be reached there. And then I think those are the best ways to get a hold of me. Even my phone number too. But
you may become very popular after this, right? All right, listen, it was great hanging out with you guys, and I think you guys shared a lot of great insights, and I think you've also given them, I think, a proper way and actual steps to purchase their first investment property at a young age or at an older age. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. All right.
Thanks for listening to today's show with Gary Hibbert. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with your host on Instagram at Gary Hibbert. Until next time, stay mindful and remember, you don't have to be great to start. Just start, and you'll be on the path to being great.